Thanks, Jesse.
Oh, we're not standing up yet.
All right, welcome everybody to the June 22nd town board meeting that we the result of the internet outage yesterday. I'll start the meeting with the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic as one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty. All right, and
Privilege of the sign up sheet.
yeah, I think I saw it. I can mark it. I'll check it out. I want to mention a couple of things in response to comments at the last privilege of the floor. And just point people to the final report of the zoning commission. Pages 14 to 19 has a table that highlights the goals of the comprehensive plan and links those to aspects of the zoning document. So that's really helpful. And the other thing I wanted to mention, just from discussions with people about the zoning law, the section after that is the reader's guide is from pages 19 to 27, which describes each chapter of the zoning law and what it does. And so I think those both can be really helpful in helping people understand how the zoning law works and what it does. So, and what it doesn't do. So I just wanted to point that out from comments from the last privilege of the floor. And I'll open the meeting now for privilege of the floor and just remind people that there's a 3-minute limit to respect other speakers and not direct comments towards other speakers. Respectful discourse is required.
Did to me.
So, excuse me, sir?
Way Bill Kadoka did to me a couple weeks ago.
So, sorry, you're out of order. You're out of order,
Yeah,
Mr. White.
but you heard it.
So, so with that, I have Mr. Fink.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. There is no doubt that the town of Caroline, our town, is divided and struggling to find a way forward in these troubled times. The board received a courageous, heartfelt document on May 19th, which is now part of the public record. And I'm sure a lot of you have read this or heard about it, but I ask that you listen to the excerpts that I share and think about them. Reflectively listen if you would.
Can I ask you,
Thank you.
did you ask the author if it's
The
okay
author
to
is
share
Catherine
them?
Goldberg.
Pardon me?
The author is Catherine Goldberg.
Exactly. So did you ask her about sharing?
Public
her-
record.
It's public records.
It is public record, I
Okay,
realize.
it's public
That was a
record.
letter to the board.
Yes, it's public record.
It is, I know it is.
Okay, so
I understand. I'm just asking if you did the courtesy of asking.
It's public record.
Okay.
No, I did not.
Okay, okay.
You
Thank
did not, you did not ask Catherine.
Yeah,
I'm sorry?
You did not ask Catherine.
It's public record. Why does it
I'm
say-
asking
Right.
RC, not.
I did not ask him,
he did it. He did
He
answer
did
that.
not.
So, yep. Go ahead.
nor did the Tompkins Weekly. Dear colleagues, it is with mixed emotions that I'm writing to submit my resignation from the board effective immediately. I signed up for this to be involved in the community to try and contribute in a positive way. I was willing to put in the time and effort to serve the public in good faith and strive to see the best in people, even when disagreements were significant. And I feel good about the way I have conducted myself. I had no idea of the level of distrust and calculation which would become commonplace at times from people I trusted and believed to be acting in the best interests of the town. The us versus them narrative, the conspiracy theories, the search for gotcha moments, which have pervaded not only the zoning issue, but town court operations, highway administration, and most recently, party politics is not something that I can be part of any longer. As a therapist, I find meaning and purpose in their lives, and oftentimes this involves making tough choices about what to let go of. It is difficult but necessary to say that I need to walk my own talk. I have given a lot of thought of what could make this position sustainable moving forward, and the answer is that I would need to be less invested, to do less, think less, care less, be less, and I am unwilling to do that. I wouldn't be myself if I did, and I wouldn't be serving the public with integrity. I'm deeply sorry for any upheaval or inconvenience that this will cause, and I recognize that it will cause some. Given the upcoming primary election, I wanted to communicate this decision as soon as possible so that it could not be perceived as being connected to any election outcome. I sincerely hope that you will find a replacement for my position who can work with the board to serve our community, perhaps better than I have done. The Agricultural Committee is in good hands, and I have confidence in the ongoing farmland protection process, so long as it is not unduly influenced by disruptors. Regarding the zoning vote, it will likely be no surprise that my vote would have been no on the current draft. It is simply too far away from something that I can comfortably put my name to. As I've said before, I think that zooming out to consider what the threats are against which Caroline is aiming to protect itself and determining whether the zoning law accomplishes this is important. I understand that some feel this has already been done, that the task force already talked about this. That somehow revisiting this conversation is insulting to the zoning commission. That the board should pass zoning to prevent a loss of volunteers. I could not disagree more. Support of the zoning commission's work can coexist with critical examination of the document produced. I can no longer tolerate the narrative of simply asking, does this document accomplish our goals? Makes me a supporter of the no zoning movement. That's all I'm going to read tonight. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, so next I have Matt Nix.
So having sat through a few meetings of board working on zoning, it's apparent that we're not that talk during the meetings because you guys are doing your job. But what I found out is you don't exactly know everything you're doing. You don't have the knowledge base of all the information you need to do this document and do it correctly. I have heard Kate say a couple of times, we're worried about water runoff. There are ways to mitigate water runoff, as in diversion ditches, swale areas, ponds, and all that to capture it. But you've left an open question with water runoff in review to the 100-foot barriers. There's no answer to that question. If somebody wants to do something, it's, we can't do this. So now you're left, can you fit anything in there? Can you put an addition in your house? Whatever. This needs to be much more thorough, much more thought about. The other thing we're talking about is these intermittent ditches. Intermittent ditches have water in them occasionally. We've put a buffer on the intermittent ditches. I don't think there needs to be any control on an intermittent ditch. Most of us maintain them. sometimes we'll put a crossing in one, so we're not driving through the water at certain times of the year. We mow them, we clean them. Yeah, whether it's in our yard, in a woodlot, wherever, they don't need to be regulated. The DEC doesn't recognize it. Why does this board? So my opinion is we need to have a dialogue between people in the community who understand some of these other problems better than what you guys do. You're not stupid, but you don't have the knowledge base to cover the whole base. So I would like to see much more dialogue within this. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. John Morse,
I'll take off for now.
okay. And Holly McGee.
Mark, is it true there's been a sex discrimination suit filed against you by the respected judge Susan Marr? That's it.
No lawsuit's been filed against me.
That wasn't the question.
That was this question.
Okay, complaint, sex complaint.
So I'm not going to comment on that. No.
That's what I thought.
Okay. Yeah. Any other comments from the John Morse now? Okay.
I guess I just want to say that, you know, after all this last couple of years, I think that at some point the town board may want to consider taking a close look at themselves and solving some internal issues. Sit there and just assume that you're always right and that everything that we've, you know, brought to you guys is, you know, just bullshit. You know, you ignore a 1,200 person petition that just asks to wait till after the election to make a vote that we've waited on for 200 years. And now you're pushing forward, still doing your, you know, investigation of the zoning proposal with a man down that probably should be replaced before you continue work on that. You know, you've gone through 3 or 4 code enforcement officers in a short amount of time. That says something maybe about the code enforcement officer, maybe also about internal issues. Now the sex discrimination complaint, you know, that probably should be addressed. Maybe it is. And after that, Catherine feels like she can't work within the group and is pushed out essentially of her own choice, but you know, that falls right in line with losing code people, having other complaints against the board. Catherine leaves probably the most willing person of the entire board to listen to all sides and come up with a solution that fits everybody. Gone. And I hear that Tim's out, you know, addressing people at their houses, calling it an insurrection, the folks that are running against. You know, you've got Kathy that's been a Democrat for 30+ years. Megan, her entire life, except for a short time when she moved away from the Democrats after watching what the town board was doing, and is now back. And Tanya since 2004, but only because she was the Green Party or independent before that. This is the insurrection. And you're spreading that to the community, an insurrection, really, Tim? Sex discrimination complaint, losing people, losing the most key board member you have. You need to look at some internal issues.
Thank you, John. Ernie?
I would like to address that.
Okay.
I did mistakenly use the word insurrection once when I was talking
I can't
to.
hear you, Mr. Murray.
I mistakenly used the word insurrection once when I was speaking to a resident in relationship to the evening when
What
they
word
want,
did you intend?
Excuse me,
What word? did you
excuse
intend?
me.
excuse me.
He's
When
not stated he.
I was speaking in relationship to the night that a mob came into the locked town hall and tried to break down the door. So I changed that to protest. That's the context, that's the deal, that's all. So, thank you.
Damn, you're lying.
Mr. Hoyt, would you please respect the meeting? Please, Mr. Hoyt, you are way out of order.
I know I am,
You are, so
and that's because you all.
I would- I would ask you to leave. you are way out of order.
So,
So,
call me out, till you could probably do it at home.
all right, we're gonna open the meeting now. With the.
Mark, I had privilege of the floor.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Bill, I didn't notice you there. Go right ahead.
All right. Great, thanks so much. And I appreciate the fact that you mentioned the Reader's Guide. It's something I wish the zoning commission had developed earlier in the process, because I think that a lot of the angst and emotion and other stuff has to do with not really understanding fully what's in the zoning law. I understand that we're going to have differences. Some people are gonna not like certain parts of it, but there's a lot of, I think, misunderstanding out there that might help address. And then we could have, I hope, a lower temperature discussion and try to fix things that are problems. But I also know there's been discussion in the community and in this hall as well about whether we could reach some of the same sort of planning goals that we might all agree on without zoning. And so I wanted to highlight, for the board's benefit, but also those in the community, 3 sort of big things that zoning can do that other land use laws can't. And the first one, sort of the obvious one, with the word zone, that of course, a zoning law describes different districts. You can have different uses allowed in different districts, or one use that's allowed in all the districts, but has different regulations in one district than another. And so without zoning, you have to have sort of a one size fits all approach to a land use. But with zoning, you can tailor it to certain parts of town. So if anyone out there, so whether you want zoning or not depends on sort of what your goals are for the town. So if there's someone out there that thinks, yeah, I like this use, but I don't want to be able to go in just anywhere. Well, that takes a zoning law to help control. And a form of the business, such as the Dollar General, is a prime example. There were a lot of folks who would be happy to have a Dollar General in town, but not there, maybe attached in Sladeville Springs or somewhere else in town where there already is a population center. I mean, there's no way to sort of implement the nodal development values of the comprehensive plan without something like zoning. So a lot of people say the comprehensive plan, the zoning law doesn't allow form of businesses such as the Dollar General, and that's wrong. It allows it in certain places. But something else I learned by being on the zoning commission was that if you want to be able to say something about the size of something, anything about a dimension, you have to do that in the context of a zoning law. So, if you want to say, yeah, that use is allowed, that kind of business use is great, but I don't want a huge one. I want to keep it at a size that seems commensurate with other uses, or, what seems to fit with the values of Caroline. You've got to have a zoning law. You cannot pass a law that says no buildings over X size without zoning. So between the two capabilities, which you guys are looking at now, the uses in different districts and sizes in different districts, it gives you a lot of fine-tuned control that you really cannot get any other way. And some people don't want that control. I get it. But if you're someone out there that says, yeah, I can see this thing here, but I just don't want it to be huge, you're going to need the backup of zoning to be able to protect the town in that way. And finally, zoning has something called a special use permit. And I do want to clarify that a special use permit is it's applied to use that is allowed. It's not like, oh, we really don't want this thing, but maybe. No, it's an allowed use in the use table. But it might have certain features, like it might be something that potentially could run all day and all night that might not be appropriate in a residential neighborhood. And you want to say you have to only run during the day. You cannot affect the use itself through other land use laws. You have to use a zoning law and the special use permit if you want to make any modification to use to make sure it fits in with the neighborhood. So those 3 things, the ability to have sort of geographic variation and different regulations in different areas, the ability to set like a building height or whatever or hours of operation, all of those things take a zoning law. And so if that kind of thing is what you want to be able to do, you should be in support of the zoning law. I do want to draw a distinction between in the table you guys are looking, SPR, site plan review, and SUP, special use permit. The special use permit includes a site plan review, but again, adds this extra layer of being able to look at the use itself. Site plan review cannot look at what the use is, it looks at where the use sits on the parcel of land. You guys will probably be coming to dimensions, commercial building sizes is something the zoning commission worked on for a while and went through some evolution on. I am broadly supportive of the sizes that the zoning commission wound up with. And you know, in the focus commercial district, there's about 15,000 square foot for a building. And in the ag rural zone, initially the building sizes were quite small. And I'm one that definitely came to believe that that might be an appropriate place, given sort of typical farm buildings and farm uses, et cetera, where other uses like a woodworking shop, like a metalworking shop, like, you know, any other number of things that might need more like 6,000 or 7,000 square feet would be really appropriate. So I am in favor of the increase in size that was made in the ag rural district. You know, we can quibble about some other districts, whether it should be a little bit smaller or larger in Bessemer or elsewhere, but I just wanted to voice my general support for what is in there. And just a quick closing comment, because I know that there was someone in the audience there that complained about how I directed remarks last meeting. I will say I directed my remarks to the town board in response to something that was said at the meeting. And I said, this is in response, I want to correct the record for the board about how the development of the zoning plan came forward. That's different than directing and complaining about a particular person who is making the remarks. That's
Okay, thank you, Bill. I just want to make a quick comment to, are you still awake? Matt's comment about we have been through the water overlay or whatever we're going to calling it, and considering the different aspects of it. And we've worked on that, and I think, we're still evaluating that, and, the jury's not out.
Under
So
evaluation, it's just that there's open questions that
understood.
are just left, so.
Great. So now,
Mark, can I make one comment just for 1 minute?
it's still privileged, so if you have a comment, I'm okay with that.
I just wanna,
You don't have to get up,
no, that's okay. Very quickly,
stand up.
section 6.3 of the draft
Okay,
zoning recommendation.
6.3.
Yes, I believe it's 6.3. It's right before 6.4, before utilities. It's B1. Formulaic based architecture styles. No trademark architecture associated with a formulaic business shall be allowed. Period.
Yeah.
Now, maybe I misunderstand that to mean no business or no architecture associated with a business. But that's one of my comments that I had submitted to the zoning commission previously. I had about 30 that were identified.
Can you say where that was again?
Yeah, B3. Right before section 6.4 utilities. So it's section
Okay.
6.3 and it's B1. So a quick Google search or document search of the word formulaic.
And I think that is referring to architecture.
Like
So,
a McDonald's arch for
Yeah.
instance.
Yeah. Okay.
It's confusing.
And I'll just say, the board hasn't reviewed that section yet, but thank you.
Thanks.
I would like to make a quick comment about the,
Okay,
about Catherine's letter being public record and that it was published in the Tompkins Weekly. It was. And the editor has published basically an apology and said that they should have spoken with her first. I found it very inappropriate. Not to talk with her first.
great. All right. I'll move on to give my report. Code Officer Babson and I attended a roundtable discussion of the, with the other municipalities for the countywide code enforcement study on May 31st. And we had really productive discussions about how we can make code enforcement more efficient and work better countywide. So the firm we're working with on that, LaBerge Engineering, will be synthesizing that information and providing a list of priority recommendations. And as I mentioned before, one of the little ones is to have county IT handle the addressing for new properties. I think that'll be good. We mailed the second town newsletter. And in that was a short broadband survey. As of today, we've gotten 42 responses. So thanks to everyone for doing that. If you haven't, we would love that. It'll help our study. And if you have access to internet and want to do it on the town website, you can do it that way really easily. And the speed test is I could do it. So it's really easy and fun, and you can find out how fast your internet speed is, upload and download. So
You can do it at different times of the day, because it changes.
oh, okay. Well, yeah, you can give,
Website.
and then, so yeah, write that out in your report. They'll love all that detail.
Never got the letter, never got the survey. Does it come to my house?
Oh, so
We've run into this with other.
then we
things.
need, I need to talk to Velvet about that. So, yeah. Okay, so what's your street address?
141 Flatiron Road.
Okay,
Can they get an empty copy form?
yeah. Got him in that town hall. Get your copy and a. Yep, thank you.
If you stay for the whole meeting, we could just go get one afterwards.
I'm not sure I'm gonna stay for the whole 89.
We will get you one way or another. Let's see, we had, the county's holding shared services meetings this year. This is something that emanated years back from Governor Cuomo for counties to consider initiatives that would result in more efficient service and be cost savings. So we're working on that. We had a meeting on 30th of May, the second meeting of this group. And Mike Steitley from the Department of Emergency Response, with whom I'm working on our EMS response subcommittee, presented a proposal for funding of countywide support for first response. And we're still, the question is, you have to package that in a way that shows cost savings. So right now we have a deficit of service in the county. One idea is to say what it would look like for each municipality to do it individually versus a countywide. And I think that's a reasonable approach. So we may be doing that. And I'm excited about that possibility. I submitted final invoicing for our Brighten Up Caroline program. And I'm working with my NYSERDA colleagues to complete that project. And so that was LED streetlights townwide, the community LED bulb distribution that was led by Emily Adams, and the LED lights in the Brookendale and Slaterville fire halls. So last Monday, on the 19th, we held a informational meeting on an initiative that we're working on. It's a convoluted story to how we got there, but we're working with the Speedsville Community Center and a firm called Egg Geothermal, which is a prominent geothermal engineering firm. They've gotten NYSERDA or New York State funding to do a feasibility study for a thermal energy network or community geothermal in the hamlet of Speedsville. And so we had a meeting on Monday night. We held it by Zoom, so Egg Geothermal attended in that manner. And about 25 people attended. We had really great questions. Cal and Tim both came. So it was, I thought it was a really positive and exciting meeting, and I'm looking forward to next steps. We're working to get individual residents energy information to inform the proposal that they're developing for a NYSERDA for the next step.
Mark, can I just add something in relationship to that?
Sure, yeah.
One of the things that I learned in attending this information session, which was really interesting, is that currently residents in Speedsville who receive heating through oil are paying roughly $600 to $650 a month for that heating oil. If something like this ended up coming to fruition, and this is just right now at a really early investigation stage, the engineers explained to everyone gathered that those costs would be down to relatively what one would pay for a cell phone bill every month. So the advantages to the community were something like this to take place, which involves a lot of complicated infrastructure. Could be up to $500 a month in savings, which really interests me, and for me was one of the reasons to keep pushing onward with this.
Yeah, that's huge cost savings for people. They don't have natural gas service in Speedsville, so. Yeah, thanks, Tim. The watershed committee met on the 13th. We discussed repairing buffers. There was support for making the buffers as simple as possible. And we have shifted. I think I wrote that. Yeah, I wrote that wrong in my written report. So we've shifted the meeting days to the second Tuesday of the month at 4 p.m. So that's been changed on the town calendar. A couple of additional things. So the new highway project has been started with Labella. As of earlier this week, we issued the notice to proceed.
You mean the garage, right?
What?
You said the highway project. I wanted to make sure.
Oh, yeah, the highway project, the new highway
Farms.
facilities
Facilities.
at the current site. Thank you.
Yeah, it's hardly a barn anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah, we keep changing
No, I
the
know.
nomenclature,
We all talk about
whatever. So,
I just wanted to make sure everybody wasn't just part of the highway somewhere.
yeah, good. And so the timeline started, so it's a 14-week timeline to get the programming and conceptual design in place. So we'll be working on that. And I would propose that, those discussions will be with Bob, myself, and one of you, maybe Cal or something, and I think we can move that along.
Yeah.
That seems reasonable to folks.
Yeah.
Great. And we received a bid today for the Ecruz Road project. Which looked reasonable, and I forwarded you the recommendation award from TG Miller for that project. It's a culvert stream stabilization project at Ecruz Road. So we'll be evaluating that. Bob hasn't looked at it yet, so
we won't do that tonight.
right. So I think.
Good.
Yeah, I'm not gonna ask for a resolution or anything
Good.
tonight. I think, and so you'll have time to review it more, and I think probably Monday or early next week, we'll talk with TG Miller again, Bob and I, and go from there.
Still trying to download it on my phone and it's not
Okay,
working.
yeah. So don't worry about that. Any other questions or thoughts?
No,
No. Great, okay, move on. That's my report. Let's see. Jesse, did you want to say anything? She will.
No, I don't have a report to give tonight, Mark.
Okay. Did you want to mention about the summer hours? No.
Summer hours are Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays from 8 to 2.
Okay, great. Thank you. I forwarded the code officer's report to you earlier. He gave us a listing of the things. So I'll open it up for any committee reports.
The Tompkins County Transportation, Ithaca Tompkins County Transportation Council is deciding on people to hire to write the Safe Streets for All plans. So that's chugging along.
So have they put out a,
Yeah, they put out a bid.
Oh.
They've been
so,
there's a group that's interviewing.
okay,
Different planning groups. Because it's quite a big job. But each, just remember, each municipality will have their own
right,
plan. And then we can move from that to try to access funding to build stuff.
right.
And I also just got an email, I gotta tell Bobby about this, but there was a new source for rural road funding. With no funding match, no local funding match. So anyway, that'll be something to look into.
Really?
Yeah, that's kind of exciting. And then with the broadband committee, you and I met with Dan Klein and Hunt's Engineering today, and we're working to try to mesh and understand the county's initiative and the town initiative and driving all these other players on the board here. So in order to best serve the town. Right.
We're just like, so right now we're doing this feasibility study for municipal broadband in Caroline and
Yeah.
so we're looking to see how the county's initiative can support that. So, yeah, thank you. Okay, thanks, Kate.
And I think we're on task on schedule for getting the grant in for restoration of historic town hall. That grant needs to be scheduled, done, submitted by July 28th. Susan is
July
studying in a
28th,
couple of
okay.
days.
Thanks for reminding me.
So
Great.
That's great.
that looks like it's moving along.
That's
You know,
great.
it takes time, but
Yeah,
so. that's
yeah, we
moving
need to
along.
get
We need to get an estimate. For
estimates, so,
you know, kind of, you know, it's one of these chicken egg things, you know, well, this is the work we like to do and this is what it would cost and this is what we can give you. So then how it, but
yeah,
we'll get that, we'll get a local contractor.
So we're gonna be able to get some estimates that quickly.
Yeah,
I think so, don't you?
Yep.
Good.
You say that very confidently. Have you talked
Yes.
to somebody?
yes.
Oh,
So I just need to follow up.
okay,
So I think we need something a little more, we need to work with Susan, you and me, just something a little more detailed to give to the contractor.
I agree.
You know, again, just,
Yeah, it's a pretty,
I would assume that these estimates don't lock us into
No.
those contracts.
Correct.
Yeah.
these are fuzzy
we
numbers.
just make that very clear that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we just need some ballpark. We don't
Yeah.
want somebody spending a day putting in a.
Right.
That's right.
So that's it for me.
Thanks.
Hey, Cal, I was gonna ask you, have you heard anything more about the agriculture survey? Is that still circulating or circulating more widely? Do you know anything about that?
I think it's still on the website.
Yeah, that's about all I know about it. And we didn't have a meeting, the ag committee this month, so.
Okay, I was just wondering.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
Great, okay. Thank you. So let's move on to the business of the meeting to continue our discussion of the uses table and dimensions.
So we were on page 45 and I had a stopping at industrial use light.
Okay. Oh, yeah, we tabled it.
Where were we? Oh, right there.
Yeah, we were just trying to do
Got
it
it
at
here, got it.
the end of the meeting.
So my chicken scratches say that the Hamlet, Bessemer, West Sladeville, Hamlet, Brookendale, there was a proposal to eliminate that there, or is that what we're talking about? But then we reconsidered.
That's a possibility.
Yeah, I think we reconsidered the Brooksondale and made that a sub. Leave that be, so.
May I ask you all to speak a little louder?
Okay,
Yes.
what did you say?
All right,
The lot, just to rehash, so what came up is whether we'd want this to be relatively consistent with what we had done previously in relationship to providing more residential focus for certain areas, and in the last meeting, we made some changes, especially to Hamlet, West Sladeville, sometimes Brooktondale, and Hamlet Bessemer in relationship to that. So just the question is how much light industrial one would want in those more residential areas in the future.
So industrial use like a non-retail commercial use or industrial operation that is not classified as an industrial use, heavy, generally including manufacturing and maintenance operations conducted wholly within one or more structures where and so on. Oh, these may include indoor or outdoor warehousing and storage, smaller scale printing, publishing and bookbinding operations, research and development facilities utilizing office spaces, indoor scientific laboratories, wood shops, and small product assembly businesses. Just give an idea.
I think one thing we were looking at was the light industry, when I was thinking about it, I keep thinking about, light industry, how many employees, how big does it get, right? And so then I was looking at that got me looking at these scheduled area and dimensions, the sizes later on. So I think I thought, okay, we could, because the size is still controlled. It's not gonna just grow. So that's why I think I said, okay, I could see that in the Hamlet area of Brooktondale.
Are we talking about light spillage from the parking lots and stuff like that?
Yeah, but it would be there would be review and approval. So I would think that review would talk about noise, lights, things like that. Is that not correct? So if somebody wanted to. I don't know, cane chairs in their garage, right? And hire people, or, I mean, I'm
Well,
just
that
like,
could be,
that would be a home
that would
business.
be a home.
That would be a home
business.
business, okay, so that's right,
Yeah, I mean, there's a
Having more time.
distinction between light industrial and home business.
okay. Tell me,
So home business is the activity that takes place at a site that is primarily a residence,
okay,
and it constitutes no more than 50% of the area of the
Okay.
dwelling in which it is happening.
mhm,
It can also happen in an accessory building. And the way that the zoning commission wrote that up to 100% in the accessory building. The home business is considered a minor home business
mhm,
if it has less than 3 employees. It's considered a major home business. With more than 3 employees. Minor home businesses are allowed everywhere with no review.
okay,
Major home businesses require
ASPR.
ASPR,
okay,
an abbreviated site plan review. Just to
okay, well, that
make
makes
sure
sense,
there's
because
no
that
sync with what's
addresses
next door.
my concern of it getting too big, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
as it gets big, then they've got to kind of, they get checked and like, oh, I gotta go. We
And
might
if
need
it's
to move
not,
it by-
if it's not a business on the primary residence,
Right.
then that becomes a light industrial.
Okay.
So it'd be a separate business
mhm.
on a different parcel from residential.
Bruce, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I apologize for being late, I had a funeral, but I was just wondering, has the board already come to a consensus that they agree with the borders of the hamlets?
We're not discussing that right now, but
Well, it'd be a good thing to assess if you're gonna. decide what's
We
gonna
did.
happen.
we did go through the,
We did go through it and
Yeah,
then we
so-
thought we'd go through the tables and then we would go back and revisit it. When we had a better idea. Of the tables. For me, that's important.
but we did consider the district boundaries
Yeah.
and.
Yeah.
Good about that, so.
And we agreed to an overall consensus on the general proposals the districts presented to
Right.
us.
Okay, that's, thank you.
So, what's the proposal for industrial use light?
Well, I guess the question is, do we want to take it out for the hamlets? That's.
I mean, the conceptual issue is whether you want to make a distinction between residential heavy and commercial tilting. So that would be the primary distinction. If you took it out of any of the hamlets, the reason would be to keep focus on residential heavy, including home businesses,
Mhm.
and then to open other areas for light industrial development.
Okay,
Now, some of that could also be parsed with size of buildings, building sizes as well.
right,
So maybe this is one use we want to suspend until we look at the building sizes. Conceivably.
yeah, maybe that's why we got kind of stuck,
Yeah,
well, it was late. First, so,
So why don't we bracket it and come back to it later?
okay,
That's fine with me, because we seem to be stuck on it.
Yeah,
One comment for you guys to look into as well. If you're looking at how to deal with your lighting and deal with light spillage, which is what a lot of people complain about, is your lights are shining in my thing. There are ways to do lighting where they're mounted in such a way that it doesn't spill, you can't
Right,
even see it.
right.
It's right there.
that's actually covered in the.
In site plan review,
Yeah,
that'll be in that section.
so the
So,
two need to be combined together.
Yeah.
So there's no misunderstanding.
So the next one that I had was mine small size. And that's again a similar thing of whether we want small size mines But I think we considered that in this, that's right, we considered that in the small size mine with some consequential. waste.
Yeah, it was a small amount.
I
I
didn't
think,
keep it, I didn't change that on my, so I'll
Right.
just keep it. Okay, so then if we turn the page. Nursing home was one that I had. I don't know if anybody has anything before that.
So does anybody remember, I'm sorry, so the Brooktondale gravel pit is in. It's not in the hamlet, right? It's in, what kind of district is it?
That's actually in a rural ag,
Okay,
but you mean the current one, the excellent one, that's
Yeah.
in rural ag.
rural ag, okay. So,
That's SUP. The next one that I had was nursing home. I don't know if anybody has one before that. The others would be the mines and then mixed use buildings, which are SUP everywhere.
mhm.
so what's your suggestion on,
Well, nursing home, again, I guess it would come down to the commercial nature of it or not.
So it's- Unless it's city management.
so what are you guys grappling with? We should all be on the same page here.
Sorry.
So we're just looking,
We're looking at the map where the gravel pit is,
I just-
sorry.
if
Okay.
we can look at that,
Mhm.
but I think we should all
All right,
focus on it.
Sorry.
So we're good?
we're good.
Okay. So Tim we're proposing on the nursing home.
The nursing
Explain
home,
that.
I mean, it again depends. The nursing home can be a significant facility. Of significant size. And so again, that's another question, whether we want SUP across the board or whether in the more residential hamlets, we might want not to do it there. Not permit it there.
Yeah, I'm guessing the thinking was that a lot of nursing homes can have a very residential nature. Like the Oak Hill, I think it's called, up
Yeah,
South
potentially.
Hill.
Yeah, when it first
A lot of
started, it was just a big old house.
Yeah,
Well,
My home
usually,
actually used to be a nursing home. once.
Did it?
Yeah.
but they also need to have wheelchair access, ambulance access, ramps.
right.
They've got to be sizable, they've got to have, they're fairly large facilities,
Well, the size would be
right, the large, yeah,
determined by
exactly,
our
yeah.
table of sizes, so I'd be inclined to leave it as is, but.
Okay,
Yeah,
For what it's worth, in the definitions, it says it has to be licensed by the state of New York,
right.
okay,
so that would probably cover all the egress access.
That's fine. Let's
Okay.
move on.
offices,
And it's SPR over commercial, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep,
yes, and, yeah,
Offices would be the same issue in terms of, I mean, we have home businesses permitted everywhere. We have bigger scale home businesses permitted everywhere. The question is whether you want office buildings constructed in residential areas, or we want them zoned differently. So that would be the question.
like a little office building.
Here, they're SUP everywhere except for
No, they're SPR.
SPR everywhere except for focus commercial.
for offices,
No, they're all SPR,
mine has not allowed in ag rural,
right,
Except for not allowed in ag rural, right?
yeah.
okay.
Right. That's basically saying that we're allowing offices everywhere, office buildings everywhere.
But yeah, it's
Yeah.
smallish office buildings, right?
Would we want to allow them in the ag rural? Too?
I don't see why not.
The reason that the zoning commission didn't allow them in the ag rural is because they were trying to keep open space in ag
Right.
rural.
Yeah, okay,
But I could see considering not allowing them in heavy residential areas.
Yeah, I could too, if we want to keep
That
it
commercial
residential
uses.
and we're talking about people wanting to live there and. On the other hand, we want mixed use, right?
Right.
So we want people to be able to walk to work or, not,
That's what I was thinking.
So,
Walk to
right.
work.
but you still want to live there. You don't want
Yeah.
just a big parking lot for people to drive to the office building, like the,
Square footage. was
Yep.
Right, I mean,
Yeah,
but
that's
the,
another
the Brookendale
square footage.
post office is pretty small and low, but it's got that big.
Yeah.
But it's got a big parking lot out front, so.
Let's save that for square footage again. Come back
Okay.
to it.
Public parks, trails, playgrounds. I think we should have playgrounds everywhere.
We do.
Yep,
So are we moved on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sawmill portable was the next one I had.
Which one?
Sawmill portable sawmill.
Okay,
whoa, we
Whether you
got
want a
that.
portable sawmill in a residential area, that's just the question.
I don't know.
I think of it as I think it should be permitted without having to go through getting several permits. Supposing you have a big old tree that comes down or it has to be taken down, you want to saw it up.
That's
Have
different
somebody
than
come in with a.
I mean, that's different than a sawmill. That's just,
Well, it should come under small business.
Yeah. So, but it just. I mean, when you say portable, I just think it just.
Move this on.
Yeah.
I'm on the back of a pickup truck and a trailer.
Yeah.
They're there 3-4 days and they're gone.
So I.
Yeah, I don't really understand that one. Yeah. There we go.
even if they're just temporary, it doesn't make that much difference.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's in there. Why is it in there then?
There's a lot of them out there.
Nice.
That's a good question.
Well,
I'm ready to
I
move
would
on
like-
from this.
Yeah, I'm ready to move on.
All right,
I would
go
leave
ahead.
it as is.
All right, they're permitted.
School private was one I had,
Okay,
wondering whether we didn't want to allow that in the ag rural.
Okay.
thoughts?
I think it should. Or it shouldn't be prohibited.
Kate?
No, I think,
Okay.
yeah, I think it should be allowed.
And this is the kind of use that actually might develop. You can imagine private school developing out of a
Mhm.
former farm facility.
Yep.
Social law, I'm making them.
There's a lot in, codes and stuff, but that for schools. So that's,
I make a resolution to,
So school, private, we're gonna go SPR.
I make a resolution to make school private SPR.
mhm.
Okay,
Further discussion, we should take a vote.
did you move that?
Yes.
I'll second that.
Okay,
You want to have a discussion about it any further? All in favor?
I,
Aye, opposed? I was wondering about self-storage facility. Right now, it's in the focus commercial only.
I'm fine with that.
I guess they take up a lot of space is the reason for the way it's structured.
They do take up a lot of space. They work against residential goals.
I'm fine with what they recommended.
Yeah,
Okay, good. I am too.
No opinion, I guess.
And any other things? Cal?
They had a question about veterinary clinic.
The what?
Veterinary clinic.
Veterinary clinic, oh, okay. Mhm.
Whether we want them SUP. I guess SUP, they still have to get permission to do it, so
Definitely.
Yeah,
I think that's okay, we'll just leave it there.
Okay. I know a lot of other things were SPR. I wonder why SUP for.
It seems a little
Because
over the top.
well, the SPR is for site plan reviews, so that it has more.
Right, so this regulates both the use and the
The use.
siting,
In the siding. SUP is use.
right?
SUP is use.
so,
So one question what you're asking is why it wouldn't be SPR,
That's exactly my
Yeah.
question, sorry, yeah,
and I think that's a good question.
okay.
So I'd be happy moving it all to SPR. I think the challenge with veterinary clinic is potential noise.
Dog barking,
Dog
There would be
barking.
would that be considered as a kennel attached with the clinic?
yeah,
I mean,
Well,
a
most
lot of
clinics
times they
have,
do,
most
or
clinics
they're,
have,
keeping
most
the
clinics
animals
have,
there.
most clinics have kennels.
yeah, I just,
Cows.
I was thinking
You don't
in
take the
one
cows
case, a local case, I know somebody. A business opened up a kennel, this is a kennel.
Yeah.
And faced almost 2 years of complaints.
Hmm.
From the neighbor across the street. Because of the barking. And that's one of the reasons that I was happy that kennels were addressed in this because it protects the kennel owner. So
Yeah.
one of the things that this does, of course, one of the purposes is that this protects both the business owner and the residents if there's an agreement in advance about what's allowed,
the SUP.
Mhm.
the SUP.
Yeah.
The SPR also gets into siting and placement, which maybe
Right.
for a veterinary clinic would be appropriate.
Yeah, so SUP gets both SUP and SPR. And SPR is only SPR,
Right.
so maybe we should just kind
Leave
of
it.
leave it for
Yeah,
now and
leave it
talk
to
to the
SPR.
zoning commission a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
So, okay,
Yeah, I had a question about the vehicle body repair shop. I was wondering similarly, like the SUP versus the SPR. Or why it's X and,
the difference between focus commercial and the other ones? Or-
well, the focus commercials and SPR, right, and then. Not allowed. in
I think it
West
makes
Cedarville
sense in
or-
terms of having oversight on potential impacts
Okay.
in areas where people live. Is that
Okay,
what the thinking was?
Yeah.
I was wondering about wind energy generating system, large,
they're really.
and it's not allowed anywhere.
That's small, yeah,
Cause it's pretty much regulated by state. And government.
Hmm.
Put them anywhere.
Yeah, the state can override any of this. in
Override
relationship to
anyway.
large.
Yeah. I mean, I would make it allowed in the ag rural block. Just because that's where it would work, but okay, that was the thinking.
Yeah, and with that, it was also somewhat more pragmatic is my recollection in the fact that we have very little terrain in the town where large energy systems would even function economically. So that's true, right? The zoning commission talked about that as well.
Yeah, no, it's true. We don't have a good wind resource here.
I think they just.
Mark, if I can add some of the zoning commission's thinking to your discussion.
Please, yeah, go ahead.
So wind energy small is allowed everywhere, right? That's in the first residential area. Wind energy large is not necessarily regulated by the state because they only do like 20 to 25 megawatts and up. That's what falls under the new, New York State energy siting authority, which could indeed, which promises to maybe pay attention to zoning, but doesn't promise they will. But there's a lot of space in between there. The zoning commission put X's across the board, basically until such time as the town created a wind siting law comparable to the solar siting law and now the battery siting law that you guys have in front of you on your table, thinking that, you know, these larger wind installations have been controversial. They do have, you know, very specific siting issues, and that was probably best addressed through a town law that we did not have yet. And so the
Okay.
zoning commission said, for now, X's across the board until the town has a law addressing them.
Okay,
Great.
that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Yeah.
And farms can still have a windmill if they want to,
Oh, yeah.
That's small generating system.
the small generation.
And when you say wind energy generating system, do you mean a group or the individual turbine?
Did you look at the definition?
Well,
Oh,
it doesn't, it says system.
Um,
It doesn't say, you know, I mean, if somebody comes to me and wants to put in 25 kilowatt windmills.
So the definition for small count is when not used in connection with the farm operation. A wind tower for personal use is defined as a single wind turbine with a
Single,
generating capacity of 27.5 kilowatts. Or less, designed solely for on-site power consumption, except that unused or excess power may be sold to an electrical utility company in accordance with the provisions of public services law.
You've got, well, okay, I just looking at,
When used in conjunction with a farm operation, a wind tower is considered an on-farm building
correct,
and is designed for on-site power consumption, but not generating more than 110% of farm needs.
Great.
okay,
I was gonna ask about reconsidering or asking your thoughts on the health medical clinic laboratory. So we had eliminated them from Hamlet Bessemer and Hamlet West Sladeville. Yeah, my only thought there was like some like doctor's offices are like homes, you know, really like, you know, can be. I mean,
not anymore.
well, the one I went to,
Yeah, the one I went to when I was a kid too. but-
even, I don't know,
Well, I just, yeah,
like, I mean, I don't know, so,
Now, almost every medical clinic, laboratory and health from here on out, in this county is going to be owned either by Cayuga Health or by Guthrie.
yeah,
So that's what we're talking about.
yeah,
I mean, I
Okay.
guess that's what I'm,
Yeah.
okay,
I don't think there's gonna be a Dr. Tinker that comes back and has office hours in the house next door.
I'm afraid those wonderful days are over.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They all gotta sign contracts that they can't open.
yeah,
well, the one Adam Law, you know,
Yeah, but
that
those practices became
they're being gobbled up,
right,
by
Right.
Cayuga.
okay,
Adam Law might have sold to Cayuga. I'm not sure.
he retired.
yeah.
I'd like to have it Richford is. Bad, it's a little building. It's 5 or 6 patient rooms, 2 doctors or 10. It's a nice little,
Yeah,
it's not big, it's not, size, but it's very usable.
run and maintained by Guthrie, understand?
Yes.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
Interesting.
I mean, it's bigger than the building next door here. You wouldn't know, really.
and
Parking lots and, it's not true. They're not the building.
True.
So maybe we should also signal that one. Go to area and dimension.
Yeah, I think we're ready to go there.
pages again.
What do you? Area and dimensions, I think there are a lot of things, so. Average lot size, 11 acres. Is not an issue. Except for an ag rural, which is. All lots must equal 30 acres, average over the entire parcel. So that's the ag lot designation. No minimum sizes anywhere else. Then there's minimum commercial lot size, which is different. And that is 1 acre across the board. It's the 4.5 and Hamlet, Sladeville, and Brooktondale. Acknowledging the lot sizes, the historical lot sizes there. Minimum building height, 40 feet across the board.
Maximum.
We need to take that.
Maximum. And that,
Oh, no, that's a footnote.
maximum, and that's what firefighting equipment is available in the town. So that the zoning commission did that in consultation with the fire departments.
Because the thing,
I was trying to think, though, how, you know, how big is my house, the barn? You know, so.
So we don't have equipment that would fight a tower, for example.
Right. Or a barn.
yeah, I mean, but
Or a whole house.
the 3 is the highest height of barns.
Okay, oh,
Peak of our barn is 50 feet.
52.
I don't see. Oh, that. Okay.
Yeah,
I did
these
read
are,
that. I
these are
did
new,
read that,
and these are
because
new.
it doesn't, yeah, transmission tower expires people is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Top of was 62 feet,
Mhm. Okay,
but it doesn't for,
Those are agriculture use
Yeah.
anyway.
yeah, so I just. Unless we converted the barn wedding venue, but.
Well, could be, but the barn's already there.
Yeah, no, I know, I just,
or,
yeah.
right,
That I had a question about it, maximum lot coverage percentage. Which is next. Because it varies significantly in places, so 20% ag rural. I think the logic of that was the space. 20% Bessemer. 50 Hamlet, Sladeville, West Sladeville 50, Caroline Speedsville 25, Brooktondale Hamlet. 50 center Hamlet, thinking of lot sizes again, and 60 commercial. I mean, I find myself wondering whether 20 and 20 went a little bit small.
Yeah,
Or maximum lot coverage.
yeah, I mean, I don't, to my mind, if somebody wants to cover in 100% of it, that.
Well, the reason.
I know.
Yeah, the logic is just the comprehensive plan encouraging space.
Yeah,
but then, Ismer, we want that. Filling in with residents, I mean, it was supposed to be encouraging net development where it already exists.
Well, this matter of how much can be built.
Oh, I got it.
How much of the.
Right,
lot
but if
can
you've
be-
got a lot.
If you're.
Yeah, I know, but
subdividing.
you're subdividing, say you've got your lot and you want to put an addition on for your, or accessory unit, like. Then you might go over 20%.
Yeah, I was thinking 20% sounds kind of,
That's
Yeah.
low,
It does.
yeah,
I think
same
it was,
with-
the lots are bigger.
they're not all bigger. I'm
Right.
really, really agree.
I have a little bitty lot.
But
A
with
lot of
your
people,
plan of 3 acres per
This-
lot.
that doesn't
Yeah.
add,
Yes,
yeah,
This doesn't do that.
it's Hamlet, okay.
right, it's the hamlets where
Yeah,
there are already
There's
no place
minimum.
to,
yeah, I mean, somebody's got an existing structure, they want to add on a new kitchen, or something, and small lot here.
right,
in one ordinance.
I mean, I personally even think Egg Rural 20 is small. In terms of allowed lot coverage percent. I mean, I'd be happy to bump up Egg Rural to 30%.
What do you think, Cal?
Yeah, and I think that'd be fine, and I think we should maybe bump it up in the other ones too.
Or make it uniform across the way.
Yep.
Maybe a little bit bigger commercial.
Make it uniform for everything.
I don't know, I'm just not thinking out loud.
I'm just trying to think, why do they, most of the hamlets are 50, and then Brooksondale is 20.
Right.
Why that would
I
be?
think because lots are so small
Squeezed along the creek.
that 50. I think that's the reasoning.
Okay, but if along the creek, they got the riparian.
I'm gonna, I think Bill has a comment about this. So go ahead, Bill. I see your hand up.
Yeah, and my audio's choppy, so I don't know how good my audio coming to you will be. So there may be some internet.
Fine.
I just wanted to chip in the ag rural in particular, it wasn't just an open space argument, and you should probably get some feedback from Nan, but she, gave us recommendations based on what basically the literature says, and it has to do with runoff and those sort of things. It's not just an open space issue. Lot coverage primarily it has to do with runoff. It also has to do, if you don't have side setbacks, with making sure there's access for fire, et cetera. But a lot of that really was in terms of water retention. But you can get some advice directly from Nan, but that's how ag rural went up at 20, the combination of generally larger lots. And given, that nature that she said that's what was recommended. In terms of the other districts, yeah, it is tighter because on small lots to put a house on it, suddenly you're at 45% already, right? And you want to have a house and a driveway. So that's my recollection of the thinking, but I would get filled in from Nan.
Bill, I didn't remember that.
But what about that Brooksondale drop to 25%?
Yeah, I'm not pulling anything out of my memory bank for that one. Outside of those partly may be based on originally some of these numbers came from measured lot coverages that Rick did from GIS work. And a lot of outside of central Brooksondale, there are a lot of sizable lots as you go up along Brooksondale Road. And so my guess is that reflected the sort of typical lot coverage that was there. But again, that would be something that Nan or Rick could contribute to better than I.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, Bill, do you remember why we had Hamlet, we're only 20%?
Hammett which?
Beesimer.
At 20%. No, and again, I think that gets to the upper reaches of Brooksondale Road. But then of course you jump over on the other side of 79. There's a lot of smaller lots on Woodlawn and stuff. So no, I'm again drawing a blank on that.
Okay. I think we should hold off and get more information.
Okay.
Then the last one for table 2 is maximum total building foot of commercial structures, so specifically commercial. Prior to the public hearing, the recommendation, if you have that, this is on 49 at the bottom. For comparison, so what happened was the zoning commission made quite a significant alteration of these maximums after the public hearing for the draft plan. And responded dramatically to pushback from a couple of commercial people. So interestingly, so I'll just read the general dimensions just so you can see the. So the maximum building footprint to commercial was originally 3,000 up to 7,500.
You mean ag rural?
Ag rural, you mean?
Ag rural,
Okay.
yeah.
3,000.
Hamlet Beeson was originally 2,000, went up to 3. Sladeville Springs, which was originally 5, went up to 10. West Sladeville, originally 3, stayed 3.
Mhm.
Caroline Center was originally 2, went to 4,000. Hamlet Brooktondale was originally 2, went to 4. Center, there was originally 3, stayed at 3. Focus Commercial was originally 5. Went up to 15. Focus Commercial, I mean, that makes a lot of sense because I think you just can't do that with Focus Commercial with 5, so it made a lot of sense to me.
Seems big.
This little chart from.
I'm sorry, so originally the Focus Commercial was what? That's
Originally, the Focus Commercial, 5,000 square feet.
so it's 3 times.
3 times bigger.
Because I was like, that's really big, Focus Commercial.
If
So this
you, the
little chart-
sizes, if you think, yeah,
This little chart that
yeah, that,
the zoning commission worked up or
Yeah.
something, it's great. So 15,000 is operations is 15,000.
Yeah.
There's nothing else that big. 10,000 is Carson and DL self-storage.
Self-storage.
So,
Carson is a barn.
yeah.
Right. Or it was a bar.
What?
Yeah, well, still.
You're not gonna build, but
Repurposed.
I mean, 15,000 and
I
it's
mean,
perfectly reasonable.
For focus
Cars
commercial.
the barn, it's like 20,000 square. Yeah, you know, the new highway block might be around 20,000.
Maybe,
We'll see.
maybe we'll see.
But I mean,
It's
the
12.
one or with the other one, just, no, that's not a question.
Never mind.
I'll talk about the barns later.
Yeah,
So,
I just give you that, you know. That's sort of,
You're talking ag rural, are you talking like 79 out towards Caroline, that ag rural area?
yeah, here's
It's yellow.
all the yellow.
Okay, so 7,500 feet, if somebody wants to build a building out in that area. There shouldn't be a reason why you do twice that in that. For some kind of commercial building or larger, there's nothing out there. And it ain't gonna stay farmland long. The owners out through there are 80s. It's gonna get sold.
Sure,
It's
yeah,
not
I
gonna
mean,
be farmers.
I got it.
Yeah, so you have to think outside the box.
We're thinking that,
But these, I mean, I'll just say, in response to that, the districts are trying to achieve different purposes, and so the rural is trying to produce ag rural. And so I think that was the thinking that the commission was doing. Even though,
I understand,
is that right?
yes, yeah.
Okay.
but you can't protect what's gonna go wild. Eventually, nobody's working in ag.
Well,
That's
That's the other.
that's another discussion, whether
the discussion.
So you're okay with 1,000? I think it's big.
I'm okay
Trying to
with
get my
it. I mean,
head around.
no, I think that
It's,
we're talking about focus commercial.
I want-
And the
yeah.
focus commercial zone to be able to have that kind of.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean that it can be,
for somebody that wants to do a sizable building and then put 3 units within,
right,
you know, one.
But this
I think it
is
should
per
be- I think it should be bigger myself,
you think it should be what?
your,
20,000 square feet. For commercial, like, somebody want. I don't know.
With a side commercial focus area, you're not accommodate very many buildings anyway.
Yeah,
so, and then the, looking at the hamlets. I think 4,000 is kind of big. I mean. 3,000s.
building's never big.
What?
Well, building's never big
That
enough.
is true.
Yes,
What?
I got to clean my house and I.
Oh, I know, I'm sorry.
What one's trying to come to terms with is that these dimensions will be the blueprint for the development in the future. So what balance do you want to have between residential structures and potentially new, larger structures?
Right
within
next-
the
right.
areas? That's the thinking. that
Right.
the-
So I would be happy to take the Hamlet Brookendale, go back to 2. Or 3, the most. This, the same with this, and the.
So
That what?
3 could be reasonable in the Hamlets.
I mean,
One of the things that Nan was also communicating about was to remember the goals of the comprehensive plan, as emphasis on residential balance in relationship to commercial.
mhm.
This is one of the few things that either protect or acknowledge.
Okay, I want to jump in just for 1 second because I was trying to get in earlier. I just wanted to add on to Tim's intro. There was another change made as those building sizes were increased. There used to be 2 lines. One was maximum size of a single commercial building. And there was a second line that was maximum to total square commercial footage in a parcel.
Thanks, Bill. Okay.
Right. And so the final, so what the zoning commission in the end did decides, it really doesn't matter too much if it's 1, 2, or 3 buildings. We really just want to cap the total amount of commercial space as the way of controlling the scale of development. So when some of those numbers jumped up so much, if you looked at the old total per parcel, the final number there for a building is much closer to that. So for example, in Bessemer, in Brookendale, I think it used to be 2,000 per building, but 4,000 total on the parcel. And we got rid of the total on the parcel and just said, okay, a building can be 4,000. So I just want to throw that in so that it doesn't, part of the reason for that stark change in some of them is because of the way we merged those 2 different limits. We got rid of the per building limit because it did, so anyway, that was just a choice the zoning commission made. So
Thanks,
you have to
Bill.
look at those 2 things together. That's it.
That's really helpful. Thank you.
I mean, I could see potentially in the Hamlets turning to that distinction. Because what you're talking about is the size of the building, so
Right,
I would be more comfortable with 2 buildings at 2,000 than 1 at 4.
I would too.
It blends in more with Hamlet's situation.
So if you have a massive building next to tiny.
I understand.
houses, okay,
So you're proposing to restructure the chart?
Well, not necessarily everywhere. I could see in the Hamlets making that distinction. Because
yeah,
what the issue here is the magnet mass.
Mhm.
Right? In relationship to heavy residential areas. The
Yeah.
issue. But it does, but maybe it's not a good idea because it complicates, then it's another layer of review as well.
Yeah.
You're only talking square feet,
Commercial,
square footage, and so like,
because residential could be 2,000.
your residential could be 1,000,
Yeah.
4,000. Commercial,
2,700 is Brookson's market now. I'm just trying to get,
and don't think it's just 1 floor, so this is.
right, it's just the footprint, yeah,
It's footprint, not
it's a
the-
footprint,
Right,
not
so
the,
you just sort of the footprint,
right, 40 feet.
Yeah,
yeah.
Footprints.
Yes.
And when I,
and then that superimposed on the maximum lot coverage percentage too.
Also, yeah.
So if you've got an acre and you get 25% coverage, you could have a 1,000 square foot building.
Sorry, Carl, I can hear you.
If your lot coverage was 25%, the maximum you could have would be a 10,500 foot building.
On an acre.
Where?
Well, just as if you had 1 acre,
Yeah, well, if you have
the minimum
a
lot
commercial
size,
lot size, you have not lot size, yeah.
yeah. Minimum coverage on 1 acre, like in the this commercial, the maximum. If there was no
Percent,
restriction on.
Yeah. You know, I still have a problem. I'm looking, talking to Nan about this Hamlet Center Brooksondale, because if in the center of Brooksondale, you have you have smaller lot, you can cover more of it, right?
Should, yeah, Ann can come to our next meeting
We could,
Yeah,
we'd be happy to, I'm sure.
and have this conversation. It could be helpful, you know?
I just,
Yeah, it's really good.
honestly, I guess we are talking about the fire, just and then how far the buildings are apart. I mean, that's always a problem.
And as I recall, Nan didn't weigh in much at the end of when the zoning commission revised the.
Okay.
I think we should, to get
All
our
right,
context.
Am I to understand that it was footprint of 4,000 square feet or written down? And it could be 40 feet high, be 4 times that
Yeah,
square foot.
yeah. Yeah, that's, I think take into
I
consideration.
mean, yeah, I mean, I know things change and I know buildings grow. I remember, to the Genesis Village, and the buildings in the 1800s were tiny, it's like these little tiny human buildings, and I know they've been growing. And then we've got, cars. And
Probably they'll
bigger,
start shrinking.
taller.
Now they'll probably start shrinking.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, that's something, with heating, with everything else, we really want huge buildings and how. And there's cleaning, mildew.
Well, why
Okay.
don't we, I would recommend that, we've oriented ourselves around this
Mhm.
issue. So let's, if Nan is able to come.
Yep.
to our-
Next agenda meeting.
Well, it's 5th. We can't ask her to come, July 5th is.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna zoom in, I'll be up. We come back on the 5th,
Well, we almost
Maybe
shouldn't
we'll
be
come
meeting
here.
on July.
back in Virginia.
So do we shift that meeting to Thursday? We seem to be having some Thursday meetings now.
Could you?
That would get it to
I think it would be more reasonable for, who's gonna come to a meeting on 5th other than us?
I hadn't thought about it.
It's Why weekend?
Well, it's not,
No, but if people, a lot of people travel on.
That's
July 5th.
yeah, well, that's what I'm doing.
It's good with me, so
Let's do it. Let's.
You have to-
Thursday.
that with everyone, of
Make
course.
sure, Jesse.
Thursday especially.
Jesse?
I can do it that Thursday.
Okay,
Great.
thank you.
That might be better.
Okay,
Maybe
so-
the other thing that we can do then is also look at table 2. Which shouldn't be much, but we can just look at it, which on page 50, the next page.
What's your consideration there?
So these are development units. So single family dwelling is 1 development unit needed for each single family dwelling. And these development units by type in ag rural districts, clarify that.
Right,
Oh, and okay.
ag rural district.
Oh, I see, I see.
Okay. And this has to do also with the average, overall average lots, the average, minimum average lot size.
That's the unit there.
Units.
Yeah, got it.
So family dwelling is one unit needed for each two-family structure. Townhouse is one unit needed for each structure. Multi-family dwelling or multi-family development is one unit needed for multi-family structure. Up to 4 dwelling units. And the additional development units is every 2 additional units with multi-family structure or development. For senior or affordable, so this is a bonus. So if you were to build senior or affordable housing units, one development unit needed for each multifamily structure, which
Oh,
is 6
6.
dwelling, so it
Okay,
swells from 4 to 6.
okay.
Okay,
Yep.
and then commercial use is 1 development unit for each individual use.
So I think it makes sense.
The townhouse style dwelling is just 3 townhouses stuck together. And then after that, it was a family dwelling, up for just to 4.
Up to
So
4
the
dwelling.
Oh,
townhouse
the
is 3
townhouse is
dwelling.
like- Yeah, it says 3.
So,
It said in the definition, it said 3,
right,
3 towns, so it can't be like 1 row.
I mean, one of my questions, Bill, are you still on the line?
Yep.
You guys are here. I mean, one of my practical questions is if you were a builder, you were building.
I am here, Tim.
If you were a builder and you're building a family dwelling, whether it might be more economical to do 6 instead of 4. For a lot of different reasons.
well, so,
A little bit of the,
Oh, I see, so that's the affordable housing units. That would be like. An affordable housing unit be like, with 6. Would be like up across from that development up there. That's
well.
6 dwelling, yeah.
For housing, you're getting an advantage. You
Right.
can put more on than otherwise.
Okay.
So I was just, and this is just an open question, whether or not having that 6 and 8 could be just as reasonable. They'd be a little bit, but they might be more affordable.
Oh, I see.
From a standpoint.
As Tim, what I would say is, I would be the first to admit, I don't think we did any sort of like economic analysis, right? No cost benefit if you went from 5 to 6 to 7 to 8. So, those were numbers we chose. So, there's, we did also, I think that Barb Newth did look into, to some extent, and the reason there's 8 units per building is one of the conditions under multifamily housing is, that seemed to be an economical number. Whereas like restricting a multifamily building to only 4 or 5 units was not a good choice. She said she looked at the literature and something more like 8 was a good number for a number of units in a building. So that's why the 8 number is in the one spot. But as to why affordable and senior housing, it's 6, living units to count as 1 dwelling unit. That is a fairly arbitrary choice, other than wanting to make it advantageous. That you could certainly, you make it more attractive because, you in the same amount of land, using up the standard development units, you can get a lot more units and therefore make it, economical for a developer. But we do not have, like any kind of economic study.
Yep. Yeah, that was something that I noticed, you know, that I was thinking about as I was, and as I was listening to the zoning commission do this. These are just some of my notes.
I do also, I'll just throw in, because it came up. Luckily, we had Ernie, an architect on the zoning commission. So townhouse is a very specific thing defined by New York State as 3 residential units separated by firewalls. You know, so there's very specific code things that make something a townhouse as opposed to 3 houses next to each other or together. So a townhouse is a thing as defined. And yes, the zoning commission, because townhouses and duplexes are often sort of the more affordable housing, you know, home ownership option, set up single dwelling, single family duplexes and, you know, townhouses as the equivalent amount of development.
So just having raised that, maybe we can also just.
About it.
And.
Yeah, I think we should, about it. I don't have a strong,
Right,
it might make sense.
and for me, it's an open question.
Yeah.
Especially for the, for senior and affordable housing. Even we're double, that would be a bonus, a significant bonus, or an incentive. I call it an incentive.
And if it were what? Don't,
If we kept multi-dwelling or multi-to-4 and we put the senior and affordable at 8 as an incentive, as a real incentive.
Yeah,
Instead of 6.
yeah,
Make it an incentive, encourage others to do
I
this.
think that's reasonable.
Is there something in the unified code that maybe,
No, this is just a
okay,
literally size.
Okay.
Number of units. I mean, the zoning commission was worried about structures that would be too. Oh, one of the reasons that it was considering these limits is just for
aesthetics.
scale, issues of scale.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we all let Nan know that, you know, these
Yep.
issues, and then also we can tell her that we're gonna revisit nursing offices, medical, and then we'll use light in relationship. So reflection is the only thing we changed tonight. Is school private. SPR and. Is that
Yeah,
right?
that's the only thing I have.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, things we thought we need more information.
well, we have to go through this.
Yeah, I have been meaning to bring up, so I'll bring it up now, if whether. I've been wondering about the Caroline Hamlet. Whether that should just be ag rural. That's a question for you guys.
So the Caroline Hamlet initially was ag rural. In the zoning commissions. There was it came out in an information meeting. One, and it could have been written, I can't remember whether it was spoken or written.
It was spoken.
And I think it was also submitted
Yeah,
as well, as right after that, it was submitted. in
but the
writing.
law was that this was a historical, as is Caroline Center. Why isn't it a hamlet on? On the map, and the zoning commission then said, okay, make it a hamlet. I'm kind of inclined to.
If you look at the uses out there, it's agricultural. The houses are just lying along the road,
Yeah, and the field behind it.
and
Oh, he's done that.
I just think I don't see. As far as parcels, you know, they'd have latitude to subdivide with road frontage and,
Right, so there are parcels in both zones.
Well, that's the challenge, one of the reasons to do it.
and that makes sense doing that, yeah. I think it
Right.
makes it much more,
That's arbitrary.
yeah,
I also don't see, I mean, we want to have developments, you know, in certain areas, like beats like the hamlets, we want to have, you know, and even Pickleville, you know, we want to have people living just sprawling out, so we can tag and the areas, but, and I don't see, I mean, 79 came through, and I mean, when 79 was the Steel Turnpike and people stopped, you know, for the coach and everything else along the way, when 79 got widened and just became a dividing area. Everybody wants to live with all that traffic. Don't see it developing as a residential. I mean, Sladeville's holding on. It's bigger, it's denser. See it redeveloping as a place, so it's like
Well,
a
that-
village type place, or.
if it did, it could, even as an ag.
I could see it maybe on
Yeah.
one side. Yeah, I mean, it's just not.
So
like-
I think it makes sense to designate it ag rural.
District is it the only district where almost consistently large lots were split in half along a line.
Yeah, that.
There are a few, there are a couple, there are a few in center.
Yeah.
The center, there are. Dale, the lot pretty much follow the creek. So there isn't really an issue there. This one is the one where. And even the way the zoning commission decided on the mapping of that was. They struggled with it for that very reason.
Yeah. Anyway,
So that's something that I. Would be very willing to. Give additional thought to. Maybe in my next meeting, we can have all thought about this a
Yeah,
little bit more.
I can go out there and.
And I was just out there. But there are, I mean, it's interesting, because what's happening there is very similar to what's happening in Brooktondale. There are a significant number of newer families who have older houses and have moved in.
Mhm.
So it's really kind of great because it has a combination. But on the other hand, there aren't the typical hamlet.
Yeah.
Facilities.
Right.
That
Doesn't have the community center.
have the community center.
It's hard, it's like it doesn't.
okay,
But let me just say
Yeah.
thank you for recognizing that there's lines drawn and parcels out there because it impacts my family.
yeah,
No, I think it's something we need to address.
Assessing definitions.
yeah, so. Okay, for next time.
It sounds like we're even tilting in that. Direction.
No,
Think about
I think. It makes sense. That's what, I mean. The whole thing started with Nan and Rick doing sort of a active, assessment of the town, and that's how they. Viewed it, so I think it's, so, okay, great.
Can we go?
Yes.
This my
So,
brain's not working
yeah.
all that well.
So I'll write
Yes.
down as availability is for the sixth.
Oh, right, on the sixth.
If she can't do this, you'll see if she can tell me that.
Okay.
So then the other question is whether we then. After the sixth, want to. Meeting.
Yeah.
Have special.
We
Take care
have,
of this.
we have to do people as well.
On the sixth, yeah.
So,
After the sixth, maybe we want to meet the following week.
I'll be here pretty much the rest of the summer.
so
3 weeks in July. Or I don't know what I'll be, but
Well, I think what we should do is see what your situation is. In terms of what are these extra meetings we have. Why don't we just wait and see?
now we're gonna set the first July meeting for July 6th. To July 6th, right?
Yep.
So I'll offer resolution to the first July meeting or PM on July 6th. Second by Cal, any further? discussion? All in favor? Aye,
Aye.
okay, great.
We're getting so good at making decisions.
Sometimes, always. The other thing I want to do is offer a motion to enter executive session to discuss compensation and contract. So second, by all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Great.
So you need to close the.
Yeah, so, and time was 8:53.